Imagine being asked to give up the very thing you love most. That's the heart of one of the most traumatic stories ever told, the testing of Abraham with his son Isaac. It's a profound story about faith, trust, and the cost of obedience. So, let's step into this ancient narrative together and explore what it means. Abraham was no ordinary man. Years earlier, God had made him an incredible promise that he would become the father of many nations. But there was a significant problem. Abraham and his wife, Sarah, were old, far beyond the age of having children. It seemed impossible, yet, against all odds, God gave them a son. His name was Isaac. Isaac wasn't just their child, he was the living, breathing proof of God's faithfulness and his promise. He was the future, the miracle they had waited for their entire lives. Then one day, God spoke to Abraham. The words that came must have shaken him to his very core. God said, "Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain, or will show you." It was unthinkable. Isaac was the child of the promise. How could God ask for this? The entire future God had promised was tied to this boy. And yet, the text tells us that Abraham didn't argue. He didn't delay or try to reason his way out of it. Early the next morning, he saddled his donkey, gathered the wood for the fire, and set out with Isaac and 2 servants. For 3 long days, Abraham and Isaac walked side by side. Can you imagine the silence, the weight of each step? Abraham knew what God had asked of him, but Isaac was blissfully unaware, simply journeying with his father. Finally, in the distance, they saw the mountain God had designated. Abraham turned to his servants and said something remarkable. "Stay here with the donkey. The boy and I will go over there to worship, and then we will come back to you." Notice that he said, "We will come back." Even in the midst of this terrifying command, facing unimaginable grief, Abraham clung to a sliver of hope, a deep-seated trust that God would somehow resolve this. As they began the final ascent, Abraham placed the wood for the sacrifice on Isaac's young shoulders, while he himself carried the fire and the knife. Together, they climbed the mountain. Along the way, Isaac broke the silence with a simple, innocent question. "Father, we have the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" The question must have pierced Abraham's heart, yet his reply was steady, filled with a faith that defies comprehension. "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." Isaac, trusting his father, accepted the answer, and they kept walking in silence. At the top of the mountain, Abraham built an altar. He arranged the wood carefully, preparing the place of sacrifice. Then came the most heartbreaking moment. With what must have been trembling hands and an aching soul, he bound Isaac and laid him on the altar, on top of the wood. The moment was unbearable. Abraham reached out and raised the knife, fully prepared to obey God's command, even if it meant sacrificing his beloved son, the very embodiment of his hopes and God's promise. Just then, at that critical moment, a voice rang out from heaven. "Abraham." "Abraham," he stopped instantly, his hand frozen in the air. "Here I am," he answered. The angel of the Lord said, "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." The relief that must have flooded Abraham's heart is beyond words. He looked up, and there, caught in a thicket by its horns, was a ram. God had, just as Abraham had told Isaac, provided the sacrifice. Abraham quickly untied his son, and together they offered the ram in Isaac's place. In that moment of profound relief and gratitude, Abraham named that place Jehovah-Jireh, which means the Lord will provide. And from that day on, the mountain became known as a place where God's provision was miraculously revealed. It became a testament to the God who sees our needs and meets them in ways we could never expect. After this incredible test, God spoke to Abraham again. He not only confirmed, but also expanded his original promise. He swore an oath, saying that Abraham's descendants would be as countless as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Through his family, a blessing would come to the entire world. This clarifies that the test was never about cruelty or a demand for human sacrifice. It was about trust. It was a profound examination of faith. Abraham had shown that he trusted God completely, even when he couldn't understand his ways, even when it seemed to cost him everything. So what does this ancient story mean for us today, thousands of years later? It reminds us that faith isn't always easy. It's not about having all the answers. Sometimes, it asks us to walk through valleys of confusion, fear, or even heartbreak, trusting in a plan we cannot see. But it also shows us that God is faithful. He provides. He sees our struggles. He knows our hearts. Abraham's story isn't just about a sacrifice he was willing to make. It's about a profound trust in the God who always keeps his promises. And that is a powerful lesson that continues to speak to us today. Thank you so much for journeying through this story with me. If it resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. We'd love to have you as part of our community.